My niece spread rumors that I was having an affair to break up my marriage. My sister laughed. She's just dramatic. I'd been paying for her college apartment. I called the landlord that day. She can be dramatic on a park bench. Lease terminated. My wife came home at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and she wouldn't look at me. Wouldn't make eye contact. Wouldn't look at me at all. She walked through the front door, set her purse on the counter, and stood in the kitchen with her arms crossed tight against her chest, tears running down her face in silent streams. "Rachel, what happened?" She shook her head. Wouldn't answer. Just stood there crying, staring at the floor tiles like they held some answer I couldn't see. I'd been married to this woman for 11 years. I knew her moods, her silences, the way she processed stress. This wasn't stress. This was devastation. This was the look of someone whose entire world had just been rearranged without her consent. "Please talk to me. Whatever it is, we can—" "Were you at the Marriott on Route 9 last Thursday?" The question hit me like a physical blow. Not because I was guilty, I wasn't, but because I understood instantly what was happening, what someone had done. "What?" "No, I was at work. You know I was at work. Someone saw you, with a woman. Dark hair, red dress. They said you were holding hands in the parking lot. They said they watched you go inside together." "Rachel, that's insane. I've never—" "She described your car, Marcus. She described the dent in the rear bumper. She described your jacket, the gray one with the—" Who said this?" Rachel finally looked at me. Her eyes were red, swollen, absolutely shattered. "I don't know. Someone told Deborah at work. Said they felt bad, that they didn't want to get involved, but their conscience wouldn't let them stay quiet." My stomach dropped. Because I knew. I knew exactly who was behind this. Knew the pattern, the method, the particular cruelty of making up specific details to make lies feel true. My niece, Brianna, 21 years old with a talent for manipulation that bordered on pathological, a history of chaos that stretched back nearly a decade, and now, apparently, a new target. Me. It took me 3 hours to convince Rachel to tell me the full story, and another 2 to convince her I was innocent. The rumor had been elaborate, professional almost. Brianna, though I didn't know it was her yet, not with certainty, had somehow gotten access to Rachel's work network through a former classmate who worked in the same building. She'd approached Deborah Martinez during lunch, introduced herself as a family friend who was concerned about Rachel's husband. She'd described the Marriott in detail, the parking lot layout, the color of the awning, the location of the side entrance. She'd described my car, a 2019 Honda Accord with a distinctive dent in the rear bumper from when I'd backed into a shopping cart 2 years ago. She'd described my gray jacket, the one with the slight tear in the lining that I kept meaning to get fixed. She'd made up a woman, dark hair, red dress, wedding ring on her finger that wasn't Rachel's. Said she'd watched us from across the lot, hand in hand, disappearing into the hotel like we'd done it 100 times before. Every detail was designed to feel true, to create just enough specificity that denial would sound like deflection. That's how Brianna operated. That's how she'd always operated. This wasn't new behavior. She'd been like this since high school, when the chaos first started becoming impossible to ignore. Freshman year, she spread a rumor that her math teacher, Mr. Patterson, had made inappropriate comments about a student's body. The school launched an investigation. Patterson was suspended pending review. 3 weeks later, Brianna admitted she'd made it up because he'd given her a C on a test. Patterson was reinstated, but he never recovered. Quit teaching the following year and moved out of state. Sophomore year, she told a group of friends that a classmate named Jessica Walsh had been hooking up with Jessica's stepbrother. The rumor spread through the school like wildfire. Jessica was ostracized, called names in the hallways, had her locker vandalized. She transferred schools mid-semester. The story wasn't true. Jessica didn't even have a stepbrother. Junior year, Brianna told her own mother, my sister Karen, that her stepfather had hit her, showed bruises she'd given herself, told a tearful story about being grabbed and shoved. Karen nearly called the police, nearly filed for divorce. The truth came out 3 weeks later when Brianna's friend admitted Brianna had asked her to punch her arm repeatedly because she needed marks. The stepfather, a decent guy named Tom, who'd been nothing but kind to Brianna, left anyway. Said he couldn't live with someone whose daughter might destroy his life on a whim. Every single time Karen defended her. She's sensitive. She's been through a lot. She doesn't mean harm, but harm was exactly what Brianna meant. Harm was the point. Some people start fires because they like watching things burn. I called Karen the next morning, after Rachel had finally fallen into an exhausted sleep, after I'd spent half the night staring at the ceiling trying to understand why. "Karen, we need to talk about Brianna. What about her?" My sister's voice was cautious, already defensive. "Someone spread a rumor to Rachel's co-workers that I'm having an affair. Detailed lies. My car, my clothes, specific locations. Rachel came home in tears last night. Our marriage almost imploded." Silence on the line. Then, "And you think Brianna did this?" "The pattern matches exactly. The specific details, the manipulation, That's ridiculous. Brianna loves you. You're her favorite uncle. Karen, I'm her only uncle. And that's exactly why she'd have access to details about my life. My car, my jacket, where I work. You're being paranoid. She would never." She accused Tom of abuse. She got Mr. Patterson suspended. She nearly destroyed that girl Jessica's life. This is what she she does. Karen's voice went cold. She was a child. She made mistakes. She's grown now. She's 21, and she just tried to blow up my marriage. You don't know that. You have no proof. I didn't. Not yet, but I would. I'm going to find out the truth, I said. And when I do, there are going to be consequences. Don't you threaten my daughter. Marcus, I'm not threatening anyone. I'm telling you what's going to happen. I hung up before she could respond. The proof came faster than I expected. Rachel's co-worker Deborah agreed to meet with me the following Saturday. She was nervous, understandably, but she'd felt terrible about the role she'd played in spreading the rumor and wanted to help make it right. The woman who approached me was young, Deborah said. Early 20s maybe. Blonde hair, very put together. She said her name was Amanda and that she was a friend of Rachel's family. Did she say specifically how she knew us? She said she'd known Rachel since college, that she'd been at your wedding. Rachel and I had met after college. We hadn't had any mutual friends at our wedding from her school days. Brianna, however, had been there, 8 years old at the time. Flower girl in a dress my sister picked out. Anything else you remember about her? Deborah thought for a moment. She had this way of talking, really confident, really detailed. She made it sound so real. I didn't even think to question it. Did she leave any contact information? Any way to reach her? No, but Deborah hesitated. She did mention something about being in town for school stuff. Said she was staying near the university campus. Brianna went to State, 20 minutes from where Deborah worked. I showed Deborah a photo of Brianna from my sister's Facebook page. Her face went pale. That's her. That's Amanda. But she said she lied. Her name is Brianna. She's my niece. Deborah's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. She seemed so sincere, so concerned. That's how she operates. That's what she does. I thanked Deborah for her honesty and went home to tell Rachel. Here's what Karen didn't know, what nobody in my family seemed to realize about my relationship with Brianna. For 2 years, I'd been paying $1,400 a month for her apartment. The arrangement had started when Brianna got into State and Karen couldn't afford the housing costs. She'd just finalized her divorce from Tom, was drowning in legal fees and credit card debt, and had come to me in tears at a family dinner. I can't let her dreams die because of money, Karen had sobbed, gripping my arm. She worked so hard to get in. She's the first person in our family to go to a real university. Please, Marcus, you're the only one who can help. I was doing well then, still am mostly. Senior project manager at a civil engineering firm, solid salary, no kids of our own. Rachel and I had talked about it and agreed. Family helps family. I paid first month's rent, $1,400. Last month's rent, $1,400. Security deposit, $2,100. Co-signed the lease myself because Brianna had no credit history and Karen's score was destroyed from the divorce. Every month for 2 years, I sent money, sometimes directly to Brianna, sometimes to the landlord when she forgot to make payments on time. 8 months ago, I'd started paying the landlord directly because Brianna had let the rent slip 3 months in a row, claiming she'd been busy with exams. Total investment over 2 years, $33,600 in rent alone, plus the initial deposits, plus the furniture I'd bought her when she moved in, plus the laptop for school, plus the emergency cash advances when she claimed she couldn't afford textbooks or groceries. Close to $45,000 all told. Money Rachel and I had set aside for a house down payment, redirected to help family, and this is how she repaid me. By telling lies designed to destroy my marriage. By making my wife cry in our kitchen, wondering if 11 years together had been built on a lie. I thought about calling Karen again, about explaining what I'd learned, about giving her a chance to make this right. Then I remembered her response when I'd first raised my concerns. She's just dramatic. She'll figure it out. Dramatic. That's what she called it when her daughter systematically tried to destroy my life. Fine. I'd figure it out myself. The lease agreement was in my filing cabinet, a copy I'd kept because I was the co-signer, legally responsible for the rent if Brianna failed to pay. I pulled it out and read through it that night, looking for options. What I found was better than I'd hoped. As the co-signer and guarantor, I had significant legal standing. More importantly, because I'd been paying the rent directly for 8 months, documented through bank transfers and receipts the landlord had provided, I had a strong argument that I was the de facto tenant. I called Robert Mitchell, a real estate attorney I'd worked with on a project years earlier, and explained the situation. If you've been paying rent directly for that length of time, and the primary tenant has been in effective default, you have options, he said. Depending on the lease terms and local regulations, you could potentially initiate termination proceedings yourself. It's not typical, but it's not unprecedented either. What would that look like? 30 days notice to the landlord that you're withdrawing as guarantor and terminating your financial involvement. The landlord can then decide whether to work with the primary tenant independently or terminate the lease for lack of qualified financial backing. I had Robert draft a letter that afternoon. Then I called the landlord directly. His name was Gerald Hoffman, 62 years old, managed a portfolio of 12 rental properties near the state campus, had dealt with Brianna's payment issues from the beginning. Mr. Chen, I appreciate the call, he said when I explained the situation. Frankly, I've been dreading this conversation. Your niece has been challenging to work with. How so? Late payments, noise complaints from neighbors, a party 6 months months ago that caused damage to the common areas. The only reason I haven't terminated is because you've been reliable. You're the one who's actually made this tenancy work. I'm withdrawing my financial support, I said. Effective immediately. She can either qualify on her own, which I doubt she can, or you can proceed with termination. Gerald was quiet for a moment. I'll need something in writing. I'll have my attorney send it today. And you understand this means? I understand exactly what it means. 30 days notice. Standard termination procedures. I could hear him typing something on his end. I'll process the paperwork this afternoon. She'll receive formal notice within 48 hours. Thank you, Gerald. Mr. Chen, for what it's worth, I have 2 daughters. If someone did to them what you've described, I'd do the same thing. I sent one text to Brianna that afternoon. Your lease ends next month. I'd start packing. She didn't respond for 6 hours. I imagine she spent that time trying to figure out if I was serious. Calling Gerald, calling Karen, maybe calling the university housing office in a panic. Then my phone exploded. 16 texts in 45 minutes. 4 missed calls. A voicemail where she was sobbing, actually sobbing, claiming she didn't mean it, that she was just joking around, that she didn't think anyone would take it seriously. I was just messing around, Uncle Marcus. I didn't think Deborah would actually tell Rachel. I thought it would be funny. Please, please, please don't do this. I'll apologize. I'll do anything. Just don't take my apartment. I read every message, listened to every voicemail. Then I put my phone down and didn't respond. There's a certain kind of person who only apologizes when consequences arrive, who says, I didn't mean it, when what they actually mean is, I didn't expect to get caught, who cries and begs not out of remorse, but out of fear. Brianna was that person, had always been that person. The apologies weren't real. They were just another manipulation tactic, another attempt to make the problem go away without actually changing anything. I wasn't playing that game anymore. Karen called that night, and I knew it was going to be bad before I even answered. What did you do? I held the phone away from my ear. Even at arm's length, her voice was a physical force. You can't do this to her. She has finals coming up. She's 3 semesters from graduating. Where is she supposed to go? You're ruining her life over a stupid mistake. I waited until she finished. Let the silence stretch out for a long moment. Then I said exactly what she'd said to me when I'd called about Rachel. She's just dramatic. She'll figure it out. This isn't funny, Marcus. Neither was my wife crying in our kitchen because your daughter told lies about me to destroy my marriage. Neither was 11 years of trust nearly shattered because Brianna thought it would be funny to accuse me of having an affair. She didn't mean, stop right there. I could hear my own voice getting harder, colder. Every time Brianna does something terrible, you say she didn't mean it. She didn't mean to get Mr. Patterson suspended. She didn't mean to destroy Jessica Walsh's life. She didn't mean to accuse Tom of abuse. She just keeps not meaning things, and people keep getting hurt, and you keep making excuses. She was young. She made mistakes. She's 21 years old enough to vote, old enough to sign a lease, old enough to understand that actions have consequences. You've spent her entire life protecting her from those consequences, and this is what you've created. Karen was crying now. You can't do this. You can't punish her like this. I'm not punishing her. I'm just stopping my support. Those aren't the same thing. She can find another apartment. She can get a job. She can take out loans like every other college student in America. What she can't do is live rent-free on my money while trying to destroy my family. She's family too. No, family doesn't do what she did. Family doesn't try to blow up marriages for entertainment. Family doesn't make up detailed lies to hurt people who've done nothing but help them. I took a breath, steadied myself. Here's what's going to happen, Karen. Brianna's lease terminates at the end of the month. She can figure out her living situation on her own. If she reaches out to me again, I won't respond. If you keep defending her behavior instead of holding her accountable, I won't respond to you either. Marcus, I'm done. We're done. This conversation is over. I hung up. The next 4 weeks were chaos. Karen mobilized the entire extended family against me, called our mother, our aunts, our cousins, painted me as a monster who was destroying a young woman's life over a silly joke. Aunt Patricia called to tell me I should be ashamed of myself. Cousin David sent a long Facebook message about the importance of forgiveness. Our mother called crying, begging me to reconsider, saying that I was tearing the family apart. I explained the situation to each of them, told them exactly what Brianna had done, showed them the text messages, the proof I'd gathered, the pattern that stretched back years. Some of them understood, most didn't. She's just a kid, Aunt Patricia said. Kids make mistakes. She's 21, I said. How many more lives does she get to destroy before we stop calling them mistakes? No answer. Brianna showed up at my door twice during those 4 weeks. The first time she was crying, mascara running, voice trembling, the whole performance. She begged me to reconsider, promised she'd apologize to Rachel, swore she'd never do anything like this again. I didn't open the door, just watched her through the peephole until she finally gave up and left. The second time she was angry, pounded on the door, screamed that I was ruining her life, called me names that would have made our grandmother weep. I still didn't open the door, but I did record the whole thing on my Ring doorbell camera. Documentation, just in case. Rachel and I talked about it every night during those 4 weeks, about Brianna, about Karen, about what this meant for our relationships with the rest of the family. family. Rachel was angry. Not at me, but at the situation. At the fact that someone had tried to destroy what we'd built over a decade together. I keep thinking about what would have happened if Deborah hadn't felt guilty, Rachel said one night. If I'd never found out it was Brianna, would I have believed the lie forever? You would have found out eventually. The truth always comes out, does it? Mr. Patterson never got his reputation back. That girl Jessica probably still has people who believe the lies about her. Sometimes the truth doesn't come out fast enough. She was right. Sometimes it doesn't. But this time it had. And Brianna was going to live with the consequences. Move-out day was a Saturday. I didn't plan to go. Didn't want to make a scene. Didn't want to give Brianna or Karen any ammunition to paint me as vindictive or cruel. But something made me drive past the apartment complex that afternoon. Some need to see it with my own eyes, to witness the consequence, so it felt real. Brianna was in the parking lot, loading garbage bags into the back of Karen's Camry. Her roommate, a girl named Lindsay, who I'd met once at a family gathering, was standing on the second-floor balcony, arms crossed, watching with an expression I couldn't quite read. Brianna looked exhausted, defeated, smaller than I remembered. She looked up as my car passed. For a second, we just stared at each other through the window. I saw recognition in her eyes, then something else, anger, maybe, or shame, or some combination of the two. I didn't stop, didn't wave, didn't say anything. I just kept driving. Last I heard, Brianna's sleeping on Karen's couch. The apartment she'd had, the one I'd furnished, that I'd paid for, that had been her home for 2 years, went to someone else a week after she moved out. Gerald found new tenants almost immediately. College towns are like that. Brianna dropped 2 classes because she couldn't handle the commute from Karen's place, which is 45 minutes from campus. Her academic advisor, I heard this through cousin David, who's apparently the family's designated information broker, told her she might not graduate on time anymore, might need to take an extra semester, which she can't afford, which Karen certainly can't afford. She's apparently looking for a job now, retail probably, or food service. The kind of work she's always looked down on, always assumed she was too good for. Karen still hasn't spoken to me. Neither has Aunt Patricia or cousin David or most of the extended family. They've chosen their side, and I've been written out of the story. That's fine. I can live with that. But here's the thing about consequences. They don't require other people's approval. I didn't pull Brianna's lease to be vindictive. I didn't do it to punish her, though punishment was certainly deserved. I did it because actions have to mean something. Because spending $45,000 to help someone only to have them try to destroy your marriage has to have a consequence beyond a tearful apology and a promise to do better. Brianna spent her entire life learning that she could hurt people without repercussions, that tears and excuses would always be enough, that someone would always step in to shield her from the results of her choices. I was that person for 2 years. I funded her life while she built a resume of destruction, a teacher's career, a girl's reputation, a stepfather's family, and finally, my marriage. No more. The money stopped, the protection stopped, the consequences arrived. And maybe she'll learn something from it. Maybe she'll realize that the world doesn't work the way Karen taught her it worked, that you can't keep setting fires and expecting someone else to put them out. Or maybe she won't. Maybe she'll just find new people to manipulate, new situations to exploit, new lies to tell. Some people never change, but that's not my responsibility anymore. Rachel and I are fine. Better than fine, actually. The experience brought us closer together, forced us to talk about things we'd been avoiding, reminded us why we chose each other in the first place. We're looking at houses again. The money I'm not sending to Brianna every month goes into savings now, and we're almost back to where we were before I agreed to help Karen. We talk about the future more than we used to. About kids, maybe. About what we want the next decade to look like. We don't talk about Brianna much anymore. She's become a cautionary tale, a story we'll tell someday to explain why boundaries matter. Karen sends me messages sometimes, through our mother mostly, says Brianna's sorry, says she's changed, says she wants to make things right. I don't respond. Not because I'm holding a grudge, not because I want to punish anyone, but because I've learned to recognize the pattern now. The tears, the promises, the cycle of destruction and forgiveness that enables the next round of destruction. Some cycles have to be broken. I broke mine. My sister called me dramatic when I told her what Brianna had done. She was right, in a way. The whole thing was dramatic. The elaborate lie, the calculated manipulation, the tears and screaming, and 4 weeks of family warfare. But here's what Karen never understood. Drama cuts both ways. Brianna thought she could create chaos without consequence, thought the drama would always flow in one direction, outward, toward the people she targeted, while she remained safely untouched at the center. She was wrong. I didn't fight her, didn't argue or negotiate or try to convince anyone of anything. I just stopped participating, withdrew my support, let gravity do the rest, and now she's living the drama she created. Every day, waking up on her mother's couch. Every day, commuting 45 minutes to classes she can barely keep up with. Every day, living with the consequences of thinking she could hurt people without cost. That's not revenge. That's just physics.